sealing. I think that's your sealing.
Either that or Vaseline on the lens.
Five
and a half.
So
If he's hearing us, yeah.
Here, right here.
Okay, sorry for the delay. We've had some connection problems and we think they're resolved. But this is the
Right setting.
Beach Advisory Committee. And we have, I think, 6 members present. We have, I'll take the attendance, but we have 2 that are going to miss the meeting, Mike Weston and Jen Wasserman will try to come in, but
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we're on the air, Jim.
No, I lost them. I didn't touch anything.
Okay, here.
Jim, we're on the air.
I don't need it.
Well, see, they
Okay.
always show video.
Let me do the attendance first. Kate Bauer Burke,
Here.
John Dykstra,
Here.
What time is it?
Joanne Preston,
Here.
Jim
Did you press anything?
Mulvihill. Jim, you're here, I guess. I can see you.
Can hear you.
Yeah,
Got it?
okay.
I was on. They were talking to me. I was talking to them. They
Yeah,
presented.
Dave, would you please
No.
mute him?
You want me to call?
Yeah, you have to call him and tell him that, I don't know what, to be honest with you. I mean, I don't know why he can't hear us. He's not getting volume through his device.
Okay, Carol Sherman,
Here.
Jen Wasserman, absent. Mike West,
I did unmute. I had a thing that said unmute, and I unmuted.
and I'm here. So that we have 6 present, we have a quorum.
Okay, Jim, we can hear you through my phone and we can certainly see you. Do you want to just proceed that way?
Okay. Yeah, that's
Is that
fine.
okay for everybody else?
No, actually, I am muted.
That's fine. But
Jim,
Jim, we're on the air. We've got residents who
Okay.
are tuning in. So let's see whether we can get through or at least begin the meeting. So the first issue is approval of minutes for March 31st. There is an issue in the minutes, and Carol and I have been back and forth on it, and Tricia has chimed in as well. The recitation in the minutes about the email and the passwords it is incorrect. I pulled up the live stream this afternoon and listened to it. There was a lengthy discussion about the email and passwords. Mike Weston suggested that only one person be able to respond to emails, and that only one person be able to delete emails, and that would be the secretary, and Carol graciously volunteered to do that. There was no vote. There was a general consensus that every member would have the password, would be able to access the emails, but would not be able to respond to the emails nor delete them. And Mike was going to check with the town in terms of how they would be able to set up the email for that purpose. And unfortunately, Mike is not here this evening, and I don't know what report he had. But again, the general consensus was everyone gets the password, but only the secretary would respond. And if it is something, what time is the meeting or what have you, she wouldn't have to consult with any of the other members. But if it was something substantive, then the secretary would respond after some discussion with the members, so that there was some agreement as to what the response should be. So we're still on approving the minutes, and I would like a motion to approve the minutes as amended with what I've suggested was in the live stream.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Kate,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Joanne,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Carol,
Aye.
and I vote aye. Okay, the minutes are adopted. Next item on the agenda is the election. There is one person running for the beachfront property owners, so that's an uncontested seat, and that would be replacing Jim Mulvihill, who is not running for re-election. And there are three people vying for the backlot position. I am term limited and not running, so that there is a contest there. I believe the ballots have to be returned by May 17th. So I would encourage all of the backlot owners who, and you, all of you who are eligible should have received a ballot. And those eligible are those who were involved in the litigation as backlot owners, and others who were supporting the backlot owners. So it's a vote for one of the three, and it is the three are Pam Shazansky, Paul Hogan, and is it Kate Frederick Stafford?
Mm-hmm.
Stafford. Okay, those are the three people who are running for the backlot owners. So please return your ballots to the town clerk prior to the 17th of May.
Who is the single individual running for the beachfront?
Barry Engel.
Alrighty. Next item, just the information item. We do have a new email address for the Beach Advisory Committee, and it is posted on the town's website. So if you go into the town's website and go to boards and committees and click A through C, and then click on Beach Advisory Committee, it'll be right there in front. The email address is GRB, all caps, Advisory Committee, all lowercase, at Kennebunkport me.gov, G-O-V. Those are all lowercase.
So I can add, I also put the new email address on the bottom of the constant contact notice that goes out about these meetings. So
Okay.
we should have it there too.
So, and the secretary will go into the email, once a week or so. So don't expect an answer immediately. It's one person who is going to have the responsibility to see whether or not there are any emails at the moment. There are like 4, and they're all test emails from me and Carol Sherman. It is, and for those of you on the committee, it is a little bit of a tour de force to get into the email to read them. And I know I had a tutorial, and I think Carol has already had one as well with the town's consultant who is in New Hampshire. So that's a bridge that we can cross later. We don't need to do it online. There is as all of you should know, we have a dog ordinance that is up on the town ballot on June 8th. There is a public hearing on all of the warrants that the town has proposed for the June 8th election, the dog ordinance being one, and that will be on May 13th. I believe it'll be a 6 p.m. Selectmen's meeting, and at least 3 of us on the Beach Advisory Committee will be present in the audience to answer any questions, and that'll be Kate, John, and me. So getting through those announcements, let me just take a personal privilege. This is either my last or my next to the last meeting, and it has been 8.5 years. And how did that happen? Well, when we were first formed, we were staggered, and I had a 2-year term and then 2 3-year terms, and we started a year and a half before the next election. So that's how you get to 8.5. But in actual fact, it's been 11.5 years, because I started in 2009 with Alex Lucchiato and others in the lawsuit. Alex and I actually participated in the trial for 3 weeks. So there's been for those 11.5 years, there's been a lot of activity, and I'm sure many of you have the same view. It's a beach that we love, and a community that we love, and we want to protect it from radical change. Change is, there's no question you can't avoid change, but it has been a trying time in some instances. Dog ordinances are, dog lovers have different opinions. There are in this group 5 of us who are dog lovers and dog owners, and we do have differing opinions about the use of the beach by dogs, but we tend to come to a compromise. And one of the compromises is to protect the town, because there are substantial fines, individually and for the town, for violation of the Endangered Species Act. The plovers are friends and neighbors, and they have taken over the beach from the west end to the east end, and they are an endangered species. So it's been a fun time and also a trying time, and I wish all of you and those who are going to be elected to remember that this is our community, and we have a say, and we have a voice, and we have been benefited by having a group of selectmen that have heard us. I can't remember any instant when we made a request that they said no. We and everyone in Kennebunkport should know that we have the best town manager in the state of Maine, and in a different part of my life, I worked with town managers in New Jersey, and I got to tell you, Laurie Smith is the best I've ever worked with.
Absolutely.
All righty, so open the meeting to public comments. Anything not on the agenda. We have like 19 people who are tuning in, and if you want to ask a question or have a comment, please raise your hand, and Dave Powell will open up the mic for you. Dave, any hands? I'm sorry. Okay. Hi, Lisa.
Hi.
Lisa, hi, could you just tell us where you live?
My husband and I own property at 4 Henchy Way. So just a quick question. With the ordinance being on the ballot in June, does that mean that the current rules for the beach and dogs are in effect until the vote?
Correct.
Great. Thank you.
All right. Dave, anyone else? Okay. So the next item on the agenda is a couple of brochure and signs, rate dogs on beach. And with the question from Lisa just a minute ago, we're going to order some stickers similar to what we had last year. And if the ordinance passes, the stickers will be the change in the hours when dogs can be on the beach, and eliminating off leash during the plover season. And I don't know, John, have you already talked to Beth about producing those?
Yes, and obviously we'll wait until the meeting, and we have approval by the town and by the town residents. But we're ready to roll. We've got 3 things actually in production, and you let me know when maybe I would just show the other 2 signs, and then again those stickers would come when the time is right.
Fine, and the one of the other signs is the carry in, carry out on the west end for kayaks.
Exactly.
To protect the dune grass there, and this is in cooperation with Rachel Carson, and they're going to put up a sign as well on their property.
Right.
So do you have the mock-up of that sign?
I do. Is that?
Yes, it's there.
Great.
So that is a single sign that will be at the west end of the beach. We've had some loss of the dunes and dune grass because people have been parking their canoes, kayaks, and what have you.
Significant loss. So we're talking 15 to 20 feet. It's not, yeah.
Yeah, and the canoes and kayaks seem to be there all season, or early season, and part of the fall, and they're parked right on the dunes. So we're going to have to eliminate that storage. And as the sign says, there is a place to store kayaks and canoes at the east end, the property that is owned by the Conservation Trust.
And this is the sign that will be placed on each of those racks. Very small. The intent here is it's really information when you get 3 feet from it. So there's not a big sign at all. It'll be something much big, 10 inches and less, actually. But it is telling people that it's not just there as a convenience. It's really there as a strong request that the kayaks be placed on the racks.
All right, and it's been we did this last year, or the Conservation Trust did it last year, and it was pretty successful.
Yeah, it was amazingly successful. I mean, folks were using it, and these signs, but we got a lot of questions. Is it public? Or can I put my kayak there? And this is just to make that clear. And these signs are being produced by the trust, not by our committee, but just FYI with the beach.
All right. The other issue is the brochure. Last year, we did not do a color brochure. We did sort of a throwaway because of the limitations due to the pandemic. This year, because of the dog ordinance and the election on June 8th, we're not sure exactly what the brochure is going to look like. So the town is holding off until the June 8th election, and then we can quickly produce. I mean, it's essentially a threefold Xerox kind of copy, and at the fall meeting or thereafter, you can decide what you want for a colored brochure, and we can go back to that.
Or if we want.
Sure. I mean, you may not. We've had problems with people just taking stacks of the brochures and throwing them away. So yeah, it's a heck of a lot cheaper for the town just to do the thin paper ones. Alrighty. The next item is the kayak storage, and we've already talked about that. And the following item is the staking and roping and beach cleanup. And I guess, Kate, you're halfway responsible and Jen is halfway responsible. So you want to comment on it, please?
Okay. So we've got Saturday, a week from this Saturday the 15th is designated as the beach cleanup and dune protection day. And we have sent out, first of all, I've sent out either hand-delivered or mailed to all the beachfront owners on the town's list, people who are signatories to the beach use agreement, a letter saying, we're going to do this again this year. If you have seawall in front of your house, you don't even have to read the rest of this letter. If you have dune area in front of your house, our plan is to do staking and twining to help protect the dunes again this year. If you don't want it done for some reason in front of your property, get in touch with either Jen or me. We've got our email addresses on there by a week from tonight. So we didn't yet last year. Last year we didn't try to do the west end of the beach. So that's why I just sent it to everybody, because I wasn't sure who was to try and walk the beach and figure out, which of these people have dunes and which of these people have seawalls was way more than I could do at that point. And we've got the West End people too this year. Last year on the East End, we didn't have anybody say, oh, no, don't do it. So we did all of the East End. And I'm hoping that we'll find the same response on the West End. So that's taken care of, technically permission. We have put out notices. First of all, we've got a wonderful group of kids coming. Thank you very much, Joanne, for getting in touch with the high school. And she's heard back from the guidance counselor there that 8 kids have signed up to come and help with the process on that Saturday, which will be wonderful. Because a lot of the rest of us are getting a little old for doing this stuff.
You may find that there are more kids coming, but those are the only ones that confirmed with me.
It would be even better. So
we'll see.
Yeah,
I don't think we'll know till that morning.
Yeah, and Joanne put up a notice on the bulletin board. I've sent out a notice to the people who are most likely to be here year round and at this time of year, the gatherings, one part of the gatherings list. I think Paul Hogan will send it out to the full gatherings newsletter closer to the time. But I've gotten a pretty nice response from the people who have gotten it through the gatherings dinners email list. I mean, I think I have about at least 10 people or more. I have to go back and check the latest responses. So I'm hopeful that there will be even more, and we'll have a good crew turnout. We're telling everybody to meet at the general store at 9 o'clock that morning, or whenever they can make it there. And the game plan would be, I think Jen, when she gets back or on her way back, will be thinking about how to organize the process that morning, so we don't have people standing around scratching their heads, and we hopefully have people figured out either who wants to work either the cleanup, who wants to work the staking and twining, and divide the beach up into sections and, you know, kind of funnel people out to different sections. So I'm asking people to bring some extra tools and stuff like that. I will finish, Paul gave me some info on what it looks like, the length of the east end. I will be working on trying to figure out how much of the west end is covered with dunes, but that have not yet been staked by Audubon, because we've had, as Carol will tell you soon in the plover report, a fair number of plovers already happily nesting away, and they've staked that part. So once we figure out the exact length we have to cover, we have, Jen estimates about, she thinks maybe 150 stakes left over from last year. And we'll see, I'll figure out how many more we have to buy, and work next week on getting the materials ordered and ready to be picked up, or actually pick them up on Friday or something, and the twine and all that. So I think, I'm hopeful. The weather looks pretty good. We were saying rain day on Sunday. It looks like we all know how reliable long range forecasts are in New England. So I'm just going to keep my fingers crossed and keep an eye on it. Right now, it looks like we might be able to get work in on both days, even if we get maybe a little bit wet on Saturday.
So Jen, Kate, if I may, I think somebody is going to need to be stationed by the dumpster at Dyke Road to direct people. Yeah. Also, all the students, in order to receive community service credits, there's a form. I have a bunch of them. I'll make sure that those are down there, and perhaps some down at the East End too, wherever staking is. You know, it's just so that we were kind
of thinking that maybe Carol and or I might sort of remain centrally located at the sort of gathering point and headquarters, so to speak, at the general store. And then, and anybody else who wants to join in the fun that day, are you up that weekend?
I'm there.
Oh, good.
I'll be there.
Or anybody else who would like to help out on the effort, pitch in, please. Jen, I think, is going to try and, work out more of an organizational plan. I left her a voicemail this afternoon, and unfortunately we haven't had a chance to connect up. I thought we might, but, she isn't able to be on tonight because of the wilds of wherever she is to have reception. So let's, we'll work out the details absolutely next week on how to get all that organized and done. Sounds good. I'm hoping that the weather will cooperate and we'll be able to get all of this done in one day. And then, John, I know that you would like some help later on for putting the rails, kayak rails out, which I'm sure we'll be able to get some volunteers for that.
But we'll do that on a separate day. It sounds like we're 15th is booked, and that's fair. But
yeah, no, you're right. So, is there anything else I forgot to mention about that? I think that's about it for now.
Okay.
I think you're going to find that a lot of people will be shuttled right over to the staking. I've been walking the beach a lot lately, and although I pick up stuff every time, it doesn't look too bad this year.
I didn't think so either. The bit of walking I've done too with dogs, I haven't seen. Now I don't know how many lobster pots may be buried down under there.
We're not going to be able to get those up. Oh, that's an all-day dig to get one pot up, I'll tell you. So that's not going to happen.
Usually Public Works will come out there with a piece of equipment.
Right.
Well, Lori told me that they're loath to do it because the plovers are already here.
So it's not going to happen.
So that's good. My reaction is good. They can turn into coffee tables for people sitting around.
They can, good.
I know.
Okay.
So, but I haven't seen very many of them anyway when I've been walking. So they're there. Okay.
Moving on, the next item is a request for funds for a plover coordinator. We've done that in previous years. Requested the selectmen fund the coordinator, and I've talked to Lori. about it. I would ask that we have a motion to approve a sum of not to exceed $4,000 for a plover coordinator.
So moved.
Second.
Any comments, questions? Kate,
Yes.
John,
Aye.
Joanne,
Sure.
Jim,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes,
and I vote yes.
just an note, last year, the town also gave us the money and we never got a volunteer coordinator.
Well, that may be the case this year, but we
Give it a shot.
we can't hire someone if we don't have the money.
You got it.
Okay, the next item is Carol, the plover report.
Got it. Okay. As a review, in 2020, Maine's 98 pairs of plovers pledged 199 chicks. It was only the second time in 25 years that the productivity rate exceeded 2 chicks per pair. The previous time occurring in 2011, when there were only 33 nesting pairs. Locally, Algonquin Beach fledged 30 chicks in 2020, which is more than any beach has fledged since monitoring began in 1981. That's all information from York County Audubon. As for Goose Rocks Beach, we had 6 pairs of piping plovers and fledged 13 chicks in 2020. Double digits is really pretty good, so we did okay. As of May 4th, 2021, there are 87 piping plover pairs, 20 unpaired, 20 nests. Goose Rocks has 5 pairs, 2 unpaired, and 2 nests. One of them is right in front of my house. We should expect to see these endangered birds all over the beach. Currently, they're a little east of Dinghy Point by the anchorage and at the west end. This may not be their final destination because they move, and also we have more birds arriving all the time. Hopefully, we'll have a piping plover volunteer and several monitors this year, but we need everybody's help to watch for these birds and teach others about them. If anyone's interested in becoming a volunteer coordinator or a monitor, you can contact me via the BAC new email address, Maine Audubon or the town. Maine Audubon wrote me an email yesterday that several cats had been seen on our beach near the plover nesting areas. We did have a pair of mature plovers killed by a cat at Goose Rocks Beach in the past. According to Maine Audubon, this is a tragedy, more tragic than even losing a chick, which is so hard to do. And if they see the cat tracks, they will not put up an enclosure because that's how the cats are very smart predators and they trap the plovers. So we are asking all people to please keep their cats in for 5.5 months. Also, I believe, though I not know for sure, but they have in the past put up game cameras to see what the predators are. Though the Audubon can tell by their footprints. They're much better than I. Reminders from the York County Audubon: do not let pets roam free in the beach where nests are located at any time for any reason. Don't leave holes in the sand that could trap a chick, leaving it open to predation or starvation. Don't leave food on the beach, which attracts animals and birds which feed on chicks. Don't fly a kite near nesting areas, which shorebirds see as a predator and will abandon their nests. That's it.
Good start.
Yep.
We should note that when we first addressed the dog ordinance and tried to protect the plovers were mainly on the west end, and last year they were as far east as Jeffries Way. At the time that we addressed the first change in the ordinance, which was, I guess, 2013, the fine for a taking, and a taking is defined as killing, harming, or disturbing a nest, was $25,000. It now exceeds $50,000. So those of you who have cats and let them roam, if the cat is identified, then the owners are going to be subject to penalties, both state and federal. And the same thing in terms of dogs. And one of the things that in the dog ordinance that people don't recognize is that we're protecting them as well when we say don't let your dog run off leash when the plovers are there, because what prompted our ordinance back in 2013 was Scarborough, an incident where Scarborough was fined, and it was fined because a resident or tourist dog mauled a plover. So just be aware of that. And I know people say, well, my dog is voice control and they're very well behaved. Well, probably 9 out of 10 dogs on the beach, they may be well behaved otherwise. On the beach, it's a different story. So just be aware of that. Jen, Jen raised the question of invasive species cleanup. Have any of you had any dialogue with Jen on that? Any ideas in terms of scheduling that?
No, I think the only thing I heard raised was, I think it was Paul Hogan and Steve Hanna raised the issue of some invasive species that have overgrown along the Dyke Road entrance to the beach, and the town is going to be taking care of that. I haven't heard anything about extensive invasive species elsewhere on the beach or a need to do a cleanup targeted just for that.
I think what we've done before, if I'm correct, is the bittersweet along the east end wall, along where the parking is. That's I think that's been a target in the past. I believe that's what Jen is speaking to.
Okay.
All righty. Well, maybe one of you would follow up with Jen when she's back and decide whether or not there's enough invasive species to get a group together to try and remove it.
Yeah, I will do that and tie that into the kayak rack installation as well. So that might be a double pull there.
Mm-hmm.
So let me just reverse the next two. Do you want a June meeting? And if we have a June meeting, I'll prepare the agenda, run the election of officers. The 2 new members will be seated, and Jim and I can participate initially, and then we'll turn the meeting over to the new group. So if
we ought to have a transition. I think that's important to do, Richard.
Okay, so I will get together with Dave and Tracy and see whether what date would be available in June. So that would be essentially a joint meeting of the old Beach Advisory Committee, old meeting Jim Overhill and me, and the new with whoever's elected as backlot and the beachfront.
Richard, I think we probably look at having that sometime after the June 8th town election. First of all, because John needs to be reelected. Are you running unopposed?
To my knowledge, but I'm not sure. I don't know. I haven't asked.
Oh, that's right. John is up, and I believe it's unopposed.
I haven't heard of anybody else. So
yeah. So obviously, it needs to be after the June 8th election. And
then we'll also have an answer on where we stand with the dog ordinance, and if it does pass, we just not only the stickers that signs that John is working on, but we'll have to work on some other ways of getting the word out there, both in the brochures and the newsletter and the Facebook and stuff like that. So we need a quick communication campaign. if there are going to be changes.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be a lengthy meeting, but
unfortunately, the beach use ordinance doesn't really address the end date and the beginning date of election. It just seems to be the term runs June to June, and so the newly elected people start in June, and those who are getting off their period of time, it goes through June as well. So we'll shoot for a meeting subsequent to the June 8th meeting.
okay.
Okay. So the one that I skipped over is dates and format for summer meetings. And
One other thing on the June meeting, any chance of doing that in person, or is that's a town issue? What's the deciding factor, whether it's in person or via Zoom?
that's a good question, John. I suspect it will be in Zoom. I mean, if the selectmen are meeting in Zoom, I don't know.
We'll follow the selectmen is maybe is a way to say it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, right.
All right,
Yeah.
that's fair.
I mean, it would be great. I would really like to have the last meeting in person, but you know,
I don't want it in person yet.
Are you really concerned? Okay, if there's a concern, then that's where we ought to be. So that's fair.
But you know what? If we're allowed to do it in person, we may be able to do in person, and those who don't want to do it in person can join in Zoom.
A hybrid.
Yeah.
We'll cross that bridge and yeah. Okay, so we really haven't zeroed in on the formats for the summer meetings. Normally, there's one meeting in July and one meeting in August. Because of the pandemic, we did not do in-person meetings last year, but in prior years, it was an opportunity for those people who are property owners but seasonal up here to participate in a meeting, and it was always at the firehouse, so it was in close proximity to where people live. But you have to address that. Have you got any ideas in terms of a speaker, a presentation, and dates? And somebody is going to have to check with the fire company and make sure we don't conflict with any of the fire meetings.
Well, I think, one of the big questions is, can we go back safely to an inside meeting in the firehouse, which is really the only venue? I mean, if we had a Waterhouse Center and we could have an outside venue covered so that we could actually meet, I'd be like, hey, all in. I mean, people can spread out. Indoors, I don't know yet. Even with many of us being vaccinated, I don't know who else is coming from elsewhere and what their vaccinations say. I'm being perfectly frank about how I feel about it personally. If we're doing it by Zoom, and certainly many more people have been able to be part of, attending BAC meetings by Zoom that couldn't in the past, which is why the summer meetings, I think, were always really critical. I think, I don't know how many people will feel comfortable about coming to an in-person meeting indoors. It's a lot of, we're not quite sure is about how many people. And the other question I go back to is, judging from the last year or so before we were still having meetings, the tradition has always been to have a speaker, in part because of a draw, as well as to educate people about an issue that relates to the beach, which is a good idea. But my feeling from the last couple of speakers we had was not that the speakers weren't great, but the fact that what people seem to be there for, I mean, the business meeting part of the meeting where people had a chance to comment in person and talk about things seemed to be much more important to them than necessarily the speaker. So it's really hard to figure out what to do this summer. I mean, my first inclination is question whether I want to do inside in person, and secondly, with a relatively large group, and secondly, do we need speakers, or is this just an opportunity for people to come and raise a lot of issues, and there will be a lot of issues, I think, to be discussed.
I think looking historically at the number of people who have attended the in-person July and August meeting, the place is packed, standing room only. Now, part of that, I do think, Kate, has been that there's been some hot issues that have brought people out. But I'll tell you, I agree with you. I don't know how many people will be comfortable attending an in-house, in-person meeting. I don't think we can set a date or that decision until we decide, because we're allowed to Zoom because of an emergency declaration by the state of Maine, right? So if that goes away, we have to stop Zooming. So I don't even know that it's our decision to make.
Well, the legislature is considering extending the opportunity to have Zoom meetings or participating by Zoom, even if the meeting is in person. That's prohibited now. What is permitted is you can participate in the meeting remotely, but you can't vote. And what is before the legislature is a provision that would allow you to both participate and to vote remotely. So I would agree with Kate. Looking at that meeting room in the firehouse and having 40 or 50 people there, and not knowing who has been vaccinated, I think is chancy. And if it is not prohibited in terms of the number of people in the square footage that's there, it is probably not advisable, even if it is permitted.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree.
Mm-hmm. Now, that doesn't mean if we set Zoom meetings that we can't find some interesting speakers. I mean, if we set at least one, maybe, instead of doing both months, although you do have some people that are here for July and some people that are here for August, and that's, I think, what we've tried to do two each month, so that, we give each sort of group of vacationers an opportunity to participate. But, I mean, we could either just do one or with a speaker, or we could try and do two Zoom meetings with speakers.
So why don't we set the task of we look for speakers, see who's willing, what's interesting, tentatively ask if they're willing to do July or August, and in the June meeting, we set it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think we can do that tonight.
Can I make a suggestion?
Sure, Jim.
Sure, Jim.
Can I make a suggestion?
Mm-hmm.
It's a little expensive, but is a tent out of the question?
That's $1,000.
I
Yeah.
know. Well, just taking a few more cars here and all that. But I'm serious, because if you can have, by May 24th, you can have 100% capacity of a tent outdoors, according to the guidelines that they look like they're coming to. Would a tent be a well-received service for the people at the beach if we could do it and get the right spacing and put it up in someplace in the parking lot?
But,
and if we could do that, and you could have people in person, then my guess is you'd get a lot of attendance if you had some kind of a presentation on what was going to happen at Ocean Woods Resort.
well, the only question I have on that, Jim, is, aside from the expense of a tent and the size we would need, the question is where? We don't really have enough room at the firehouse parking lot if people are going to drive there.
No, you do it at the Trust, is what I would suggest.
Well, there's the Trust and there's the firehouse downtown. I mean, they're bigger parking lot, although they're used by people visiting downtown. But the issue always was with the firehouse, the GRB firehouse, was it's so close, people can, just walk up there or be more likely to come of the people who are, visiting now at the beach. But yeah, I agree that the Conservation Trust would be a lovely idea, but whether people will go that.
I didn't see many people walking, but it might be maybe so. But that's but I think if you could find, it's the expense of the tent. I think is the issue.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. Having thrown a wedding at the trust and then in my backyard, the tents are not cheap.
Right.
Not cheap.
Yeah.
So I don't think we want to blow $1,000 to put a tent up for a 2-hour meeting.
How much do we contribute each year to the tax base of the town?
I just don't think that's a wise use of money. I love the idea, but I think if you look at the cost of the tent, unless someone wants to donate it, I don't think it's going to fly financially.
Well,
but if you had a certain, whatever the topic, you could have the right topic, people would go to the trust, I think.
yeah, but I don't think we're going to know enough about Ocean Woods to make that the topic, to be honest, even though I agree with you that it is a very, very important topic. But
well, we could talk about Ocean Woods and Meadow Woods. Talk about the two of them together.
Yeah.
That would give you a collection. And the Meadow Woods is going to be very important to people, I hope, at the beach.
I hope so too.
Well,
And Meadow also wraps in the trust, which is good. It gives it might help the price of the lot.
The Ocean Woods is going to be before the planning board. Right now, it's scheduled for May 19th to determine whether their application is complete. And I know I've heard from a good number of people who have an opinion in terms of Ocean Woods. I'm not sure that it is something that is appropriate for the advisory committee to chime in on when it is before the planning board. Certainly individual members have every right to oppose or agree with the application.
But I don't think we're chiming in as a committee. We're just holding an event that allows people to understand more. I mean,
that's all. I'm not looking for taking any positions on it one way or the other. But I know if I was someone coming up only for the summer, every summer, before I left for the fall, if groundbreaking, if everything is approved, was going to be in spring of 2022, I might like to know what's planned to go on. Not to take a position one way or the other, but just to be able to see what people are planning to do there. And I think it's a service we could be providing as a beach advisory council.
Well, I guess I understand as the planning process goes, maybe by July, we're not going to know where it's going to come. I mean, what the full picture is going to be. And the application is public record, but, I mean, I don't doubt in the least that we're going to be asked questions about it at whatever meetings we hold. So, we're going to have to respond somewhat, not necessarily as a position, but just as what information we are aware of at that point, and also, tell people where they can find additional information or look it up. But
well, they can find additional information by attending on Zoom the planning board meeting, and they will have whatever information is testimony before the planning board. And if we're answering questions, I mean, we know in broad brush what's being proposed, but there are lots of issues that people are bringing up that we are. I don't think it's appropriate for us to talk about non-conforming uses and whether what they're proposing is consistent with the non-conforming use. It's just not in our bailiwick.
I didn't hear anybody suggest that, Richard. I mean,
what are you going to respond when people say, well, what's going to happen? What are they going to be proposing? Is it a legitimate application? Does the application have problems in terms of whether or not they are exceeding the nonconformity that's there? How do you respond to that?
If you don't have a definitive answer, you say, I don't know.
Well, I mean, for some of those questions, I think I have a definitive answer, but I don't think it's my place at the Beach Advisory Committee. It may be my place as an individual to speak out at the planning board.
Let's just, good.
Sorry, I keep losing Jim. I don't know whether it's on my end or his end.
Sure.
Could be either.
Well, so I guess the bottom line is that we will have a June meeting, and you will be prepared at the June meeting to talk about dates, possible speakers, and whether or not you want to have what Jim is suggesting or some alternative to bring people in person to person.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay. Any other business?
Yeah, I have one piece. I'd like to give just a quick update on what has occurred over this spring, this winter and spring, with the healthy beaches, Maine Healthy Beaches, and the bacterial analysis that's been done over the years by our volunteers, a tremendous wealth of data that has been faithfully collected. And the town had agreed with Healthy Beaches through Allison to put together a GIS, a geographic information system, where these data can be assimilated and brought together and looked in relation with other geographic information to help in the analysis, probable cause, mitigations, or just understanding what the spatial distributions of things are. And I thought I'd just share quickly with you. Let's see, screen 2. It was so easy to find before. Why is it? Well, we'll just have to do it this way. This is the beginnings of the GIS that we've been putting together. The base maps are being developed through UNE. That program is still progressing. We had some issues with COVID that prevented us from getting as far as we had hoped to get with the base maps, but the general capability of the GIS is in place. And what is mapped here are just the various locations where the samples were taken, and then you can look at different parameters here, just as one looking at salinity, the average salinity over the course of time, and it makes sense. You can see how the salinity is higher along the beach. It falls at lower levels. But the real heart of the work was taking the data that had been faithfully collected and putting it in a format that could be used within the GIS. And what I'm trying to do is to see, and I don't know why this isn't letting me bring this up. I'm going to try one more time, and if I can't do it, I got it. These are what we were able to do is to take data that had been collected by the volunteers and bring it into a format where for every site on a given date and a given time the data were taken, we have a data record that allows us to show the concentrations of the bacteria, the salinity that was measured. We were able to calculate different tidal parameters, how high the tide was, at what point the tide was when the sample was taken. Astronomically, was it a large spring tide? Was it a low tide, neap tide, etc.? We also were able to add wind direction, which has been a fun component. There's some work that John Crowder has been looking at, some hypotheses that these data help to support. And then the rain, the amount of rain that was collected. And just very quickly, these are some plots. What we're particularly on this one, this is plotting the amount of bacteria, the concentration against the amount of rainfall. And it has always been held by the beach that the higher the rainfall, the more likely there could be a high concentration of bacteria that might indeed impact health. And when you look at the data, you might first say, well, my heavens, I have high bacteria at all kinds of rainfall. But the important fact is what percentage of the time is the bacteria high? And see, there are a lot of areas here where it's low, and these dots can have multiple samples within them. So what I plotted here is the probability at each of the different rainfall levels. What's the probability of the bacteria being above the threshold of 104? And there you see it skyrocket. 20% or 15% of the time, no matter where you are, you have the probability of the data being above threshold. And that's at the river now. We're at the mouth of the river, not on the main beach. Whoa, that's important to say. What I'm showing you is at the mouth of the river, and that's where we expect the bacteria to be high. On the main beach, we hardly see this at all. But in the river areas, it is high, and it's particularly high when there is a high level of rainfall. So these are the kinds of things that we've been doing with the data. There's a lot more work to be done. We will be looking to hire another intern in the fall, so the work proceeds. But again, none of this would be possible without the volunteer effort, the dedicated folks that have in the past and continue to collect these samples. So hats off, and we really need to be very appreciative of their efforts and time.
Alrighty, thanks, John. One thing that I didn't mention, there was a notice from the town about purchasing stickers for parking at Goose Rocks, and it is from Memorial Day weekend to Labor Day. The residents can purchase the stickers at Town Hall, and that's $5 for residents. Non-resident tickets, stickers can be purchased at Town Hall. I'm not sure whether the police department will be doing that, but this year there are going to be 2 kiosks, one at the general store and one at Proctor Avenue and Kings Highway. And the general store will no longer be selling stickers. So it's becoming somewhat automated, only credit cards for the kiosks. So we're getting to the end there. There are some people who have stuck with us through the whole meeting, and let me open the meeting again to the public and see whether anyone has comments, questions, criticisms, what have you. Dave, do you see any hands up? Pardon me? Okay. Brendan?
I had you for a second. Here we go.
There you go. Brendan, could we have your full name and your address?
Yeah, Brendan Donovan, 876 Kings Highway, Kennebunkport.
Okay. The floor is yours.
Yeah, good. I had a number of things I wanted to talk to, and a lot of them were covered. But I just have just one item to point out to the Beach Advisory Committee. Across the street from the anchorage, there's a beach obstruction. There's a sign put up by the people at the anchorage. That's not on any private property. That's on the Kings Highway easement. And I'd just like to see if the Beach Advisory Committee would make a comment. No one is complaining to the town, according to Lori Smith. And I just think that it's an obstruction. It shouldn't be there. The town should ask Mr. DeCessa to remove it, but I think the Beach Advisory Committee should have a comment that this type of obstruction should not be allowed.
Is this a new sign or is this the old sign?
It's been there about 2 years.
Okay, which says something Anchorage Way or something like that?
Yeah, private way.
Private way. And is it private property? I don't know whether the Anchorage was part of the lawsuit if they...
No. This is nothing to lawsuit. In 1926, Odessa Gray and Orlando Dow recorded the subdivision for the entire property. And the Kings Highway easement extends beyond the pavement in both directions, approximately 20 feet. And if you drive down Kings Highway, you'll notice all of the homes are set back from Kings Highway, from the pavement.
Okay, you're not saying that there isn't a private way. You're just saying that the sign that it is a private way is in the town right of way.
I'm saying the sign is in the people who own Kings Highway are all of the house lots that are on Odessa Gray and Orlando Dow's 1926 subdivision, which is recorded. And that's the majority of the houses around Goose Rocks Beach. And I can gladly give anybody who wants a copy of that filing at any time. That the current easement, the current sign put up by the owners of the anchorage are on public property, not private property. If the owners of the anchorage want to put that sign back about 20 feet into the beach grass, that's their private property. But in order to put the sign up, they have to get permits from the state, dune grass, et cetera, which they'll never get. And I just think that the Beach Advisory Committee, given that it interferes with access to the beach, should make a comment to Lori Smith of the town that you would like to see that obstruction removed.
Brendan, I'll take a look at it, and I'm sure that other members will take a look at it. I'm not sure that I quite follow what you're saying. Maybe the sign is in the town right of way, but it is if it is still a private right of way to the beach.
No. Excuse me. It's a private right of way.
The question is who owns the property, and the reason I asked whether the Anchorage was part of the lawsuit, if they were part of the lawsuit, then they lost, and that part of the beach is town property. If the Anchorage was participating in the beach use agreement, then that would be a different story.
Well, the most fundamental thing is that the Kings Highway easement extends beyond the pavement approximately 20 feet.
I got that. I got that.
I have given all of that documentation to Lori Smith.
And you're saying the sign is in the town right of way, and the town should ask the Anchorage to remove it. I got that.
That's
Okay.
it, exactly.
Okay. All righty. Thank you. Anything else?
Not by me.
Okay. David, is there anyone else who has their hand up? Okay. Well, I guess we are at the end of the meeting. Unless there's other business from members, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Have a great evening.
Night all.
Thanks, Clete.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you, Clete.